I'd like to welcome everyone to our Stevens Plantation Improvement Project DSD Governing Board meeting this Thursday, April 22nd. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chairman Blackwell,
Here.
Vice Chairman Trace,
Here.
Member Matheny,
Here.
Member Cooper,
I am here.
Member Askew.
Here. Brings us to our first resolution. Madam Clerk, will you read that?
Resolution number 2021-004R, a resolution of the Board of the Stevens Plantation Improvement Project Dependent Special District approving and accepting a Fourth Amendment to certain agreement to sell Lot 2 of Nolte Road Commercial Park of the Stevens Plantation, approximately 1.52 acres of real property of Compton Builders, Inc., dated November 18, 2019, authorizing the chairman or in his absence, the vice chairman, to execute the Fourth Amendment and all documents necessary to complete the sale.
Mr. Manzares?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So tonight we have, first I'll just quickly reference on the agenda. Tonight there are 3 items on the agenda. The third item on the agenda, resolution number 2021-006R, that is the Rimrock Properties contract, which this board already approved. After you approved it, there was some wordsmithing that was done and some additional terms that the buyer tried to add or wanted to add. We were able to negotiate away from those terms, so we thought we might have to bring it back to you, but no, we don't have to now tonight, so we're not going to hear that third one because they haven't changed the terms to it as approved by the board. So the item that the clerk just read in is with regard to Lot 2 at the Stevens Plantation Commercial Park, and you can see on the screen the buyer of this project is property is Compton Builders. The purchase price is $475,000 for 1.5 acres. As you might recall, this contract has been in front of you a few times. This is actually the Fourth Amendment to it. The last amendment to this contract extended the closing date to April 1st. The buyer did not close by April 1st, and the buyer has come back now and is asking for a further amendment to the contract to extend the closing date till June 1st of this year. We had written the third amendment to this agreement with an April 1st closing date because we knew that at that time the DSD, albeit the city, would have to pay the third year of taxes that comes due about that time. So when the property didn't close, as you know, our goal has been to close these properties and then have the taxes paid out of the sale proceeds so the city doesn't have to absorb any additional costs on behalf of the DSD. Unfortunately, due to the fact that the property didn't close by April 1st, those taxes had to be paid. So the item before you, we are recommending as staff that the closing date be extended till June 1st, 2021. The purchase price says this stays the same. The additional earnest money deposit, which has not yet been paid, needs to be paid as soon as possible, which is $15,000, and that the buyer, as a recommendation for consideration of the extension of the closing date, pay $14,849.71 to the city on behalf of the DSD for taxes and the assessments that had to be paid by April 1st. The staff's recommendation is that amount would not be a credit at the closing table. This is similar to the deals that we worked with Madison Groves on lots 4 and 5 and with Alliance on lots 8C, 9, and 10, tracks 8C, 9, and 10, where they wanted extensions of the closing dates, so they would essentially absorb the cost of carrying the property for another year. That's staff's recommendation. Currently, we are out of contract, so because they didn't close by April 1st. So if this amendment cannot be approved or is not negotiated, then the property again will be out of contract. So with that, I'll entertain any questions you might have. But and I believe.
Has the buyer not agreed to paying the taxes?
That's what I understand. I know Veronica Malolos, and I'll just say Mr. Crosby is here in the back, but Veronica Malolos, I think, is addressing an issue with the COVID, so that's why she's on quarantine right now. That's why she's not here. But last I spoke with her this morning, and we understood that the buyer was not in agreement to paying this $14,849.71 as a non-creditable amount to the buyer.
Okay.
So I thought there was going to be, Mr. Compton, I understand, is out of town. I don't know if anybody's here on his behalf.
Is there anyone here to speak on the buyer's behalf?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Charles Owen, and Mr. Compton is out of town, and he called and wanted to know if I would come and speak on his behalf. The way I understand it is you could take, because the deposit on the contract was hard, so it's basically the city's money, or Stevens Plantation. And I guess just wanted to reiterate or clarify, you take that deposit and that would pay the taxes on the property for the 30 years. Is that right?
No, that's not correct.
Oh, that's not correct. Okay.
And if I could, as the board knows, that $15,000 would have to be towards a credit of the purchase price. So at the closing table, then the actual additional, there wouldn't be additional cash paid to pay off those taxes. And all that, and as the board is well aware of it, I know Mr. Compton's aware of this, the net result of these transactions is that any of the net proceeds after the liens are paid and everything essentially doesn't go to the DSD, it goes to the bondholders. So this $14,849 is true city money that has been expended on this, which is why we're recommending it.
Right. And that would be paid at closing or
We would ask that it be paid fairly quickly.
immediately?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're not willing to pay the tax.
That's what I understood, so I don't know if Mr. Owen has a,
You're only looking for another 2 months and you can't pay before that? Now?
Well, yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm just speaking, for Mr. Compton. I'll be happy to call him as soon as I get out of here. But I think he'd be amenable to that. Go ahead and pay the taxes.
If he doesn't, he's got one no here. So if you can find out, I'd feel a lot better if it did.
All right, I'll just go ahead and commit to that the taxes would be paid then, and if the contract extended till June 1st.
that's how it's being presented by staff to the board.
All right, so you're amenable to that.
Yes, sir.
Sign him up,
And he's ready to,
sign him up.
and he's ready to close June 1st? Like, we're not going to come back again
As
and,
far as I know.
And-
Real estate kind of, sometimes it just seems to go on forever, but hopefully that would be able to close.
And
When would you pay the tax bill?
Well, I'm going to recommend to Barry that it get paid probably next week.
yeah, and it cannot be paid as part of the closing.
Right, understand.
It has to be
Right.
paid outside the closing.
Right.
Okay,
And I would ask one more thing, and I would ask Mr. Owen if he could commit this. We understand the situation, we understand, and Mr. Crosby can fill you in about the current craziness of the retail markets and all that from a real estate perspective, we all know that. However, and we have had a great deal of delay in getting these agreements signed back, and when I talk about the next item, I'll explain that to you a little further. So we would ask that this offer remain open for, I don't know if it's okay, we can remain it open for 10 days at least, so we can get the contract signed, the amendment signed within 10 days.
all right.
We've had and if it doesn't get signed within 10 days by the buyer, then it would be off the table.
Gotcha.
So we'd ask if you're moving with staff recommendation, that you include that in in the recommendation.
You understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other question? Could I entertain a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Meisner, I'm sorry. Would you like to speak to this? I meant to ask for any.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, David Meisner, 3410 Polly's Loop North, Stevens Plantation. As a resident of Stevens Plantation, I'm highly concerned about the sales in Stevens Plantation. I would like to see this go through. Unfortunately, I think you're being jerked around. This is a Fourth Amendment, and they're giving you a hard time about paying the taxes. Did not tell you truthfully last time what was going to happen on this. Either you double the non-refundable earnest money, or I recommend you not approve this. Let them come back with another offer. But they're just playing games with you, and I hate to see that being done. It's also been done on other properties within the corporate campus. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Meisner. Is there anyone else that needs to speak to this? Then I will entertain a motion again.
So moved.
A motion from Board Member Cooper. Would you like to state with the provisions that we
Yeah, it would be
Could you read
staff's
those?
recommendation plus a 10-day provision for the contract, the amendment to be signed by the buyer.
All right.
Could you make a phone call? Can you get him?
I think Mr. Cooper, I think Mr. Owen just committed on behalf of the
Okay.
buyer that we do that, so
Yes.
I don't think we need a
As long as
phone.
we get it done.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cooper, can I make a friendly amendment?
Sure.
Is it possible to say that when we get the executed, at the time we get the executed contract, that's when the earnest money is coming with it and the taxes? So we got 10 days, it's 10 days to get the contract in and pay these two amounts.
Sure.
I would like, if you're
Yeah,
okay with that,
That's fine. That would
just
work.
because like Mr. Meiser
It's-
said, we've been
It's
rolling
been too
this,
long, yes. Been too
rolling
long.
this ball down the hill, so.
Okay. we
Your
will
10
cha-
days are coming. Tick,
What-
tick, tick.
What, I think what you're referring to is that there would be, the approval by the DSD board is basically open for 10 days. And however, the monies regarding the taxes and the additional earnest money need to be paid at the time that it's signed.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
We have, that's a good, thank you, that's a good
When did you
suggestion.
get all that?
So,
And I'll second your motion, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you.
thank you. We have a motion as amended and a second from Board Member Matheny. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Member Askew,
Aye.
Vice Chair Trace,
Aye.
Member Matheny,
Aye.
Member Cooper,
Aye.
Chairman Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0.
Madam Clerk, will you?
I'm sorry? Yes, read this.
Sorry. Resolution number 2021-005R, a resolution of the Board of the Stevens Plantation Improvement Project Dependent Special District approving and accepting an agreement to sell Lot 5 of the Nolte Road Commercial Park, Stevens Plantation, approximately 1.38 acres of real property to Compton Builders, Inc. for $280,000. Authorizing the chairman in his absence the vice chairman to execute the agreement and all documents necessary to complete the sale. Repealing all resolutions in conflicts herewithin, specifically Resolution number 2020-08.
Kelly, can you put the map up? Yeah, okay, so I just want to make sure we know. So, again, Dan Manzares, I'm presenting to you on this resolution. The resolution that was read by the clerk is a little different than the resolution that was on the agenda. We sent out a subsequent information after the agenda went out to correct it, and we apologize for that. As I alluded to in the last item, this item actually came back in front of the board back in August. And at that time, we approved the sale of Lot 5, which is one of the backlogs, lots on the screen. You see that. Can you go back to the term slide, please? Thank you. So the purchase price approved back in August was $280,000. It is 1.3 acres. It's one of the back lots. As you remember from the discussion then, probably these are the lots that do not have frontage on Nolte Road, so we anticipated that they would have a lower sale price. What we discovered after we put this item together, we were operating under the assumption that the original agreement was actually signed back in August of 2020. Well, it was not. It was only recently signed by the buyer and sent to us with changes on it. So to try to remove the confusion of having 3 and 4 amendments, we drafted and we provided a new agreement, which was provided to you earlier in the week, which has also been provided to the buyer. That agreement essentially, can go to the next slide, please, Kelly. So that agreement, again, has a purchase price of $280,000. It has a very quick inspection period, operating off of the fact that we understood that the buyer who's of this lot, obviously the same buyer of Lot 2, wanted to close on these properties simultaneously as of June 1st. So there's a shorter inspection period in it. The buyer requested a smaller earnest money deposit than was in the original agreement back in August of 2020, and staff is agreeing to recommend that for 2 reasons. First of all, there's a very quick close date on this. Here we are, we're here at the end of April, and we're looking at June 1st. Plus, the purchase price is about half of the other purchase price. So we were okay with that smaller earnest money deposit, which would be $5,000 at the time that this new agreement is signed, and $5,000 at the expiration of the inspection period. Again, there'd be a June 1st, 2021 closing on it, and payment of the purchase price of $280,000. So. It's staff's recommendation that the board approve Lot 5, the sale of the Compton Builders for $280,000, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
Go ahead.
Mr. Manzares?
Thank you. So, because this contract didn't get signed and we're redoing this, did we not have the same tax implications that we paid the taxes on this?
We did, but we weren't under contract like we were on the other one, so we did not include that in the other. As you remember in our discussion on the last one, they had actually agreed to close by April 1st, which was part of the reason why we did it. In this instance, under that original agreement, had it been approved, they wouldn't have closed by April 1st under the August 20 agreement. So if they had even signed it, the inspection period would have gone beyond that, and the DSD would have had to absorb that last year, that third year of taxes.
Seems kind of like we got jerked off.
Well, I respectfully, I would, and I understand obviously we understand the frustration, and again, Mr. Crosby, who's your listing agent on these properties, he can come talk to you a little bit about the market, but we understand it. Not only is the market difficult for retail at this stage, given the fact that the results of the pandemic and what everything else is going on, this again is this lot is again one of the less attractive lots in the development. So we always thought that this would be one of the more difficult lots to sell and deal with it. So, and again, Mr. Crosby is here if you want to ask him any questions about that. But I don't necessarily think we're being jerked around. I think it's more of an issue of the market. However, I would ask in this instance that we have a similar provision that you had in the last agreement, that if you approve it like this, then we give the buyer 10 days to sign off on the agreement or the offer goes away.
Right. Any other questions of the?
That still looks like a good price for the 1.38 acres. It's not a bad price.
I guess Mr.
Owen,
Owens.
are you here to speak to this also?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Crosby? Nope. Does anyone else in the audience want to speak to this item? Mr. Meisner?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, David Meisner, 3410 Polly's Loop North, Stevens Plantation. As a resident of Stevens Plantation, yes, I would like to see this sale go through. This has been pending since August, and no contract was signed. And just based on the last one, I think you're being jerked around again. He's using your money and your time to basically bet on the market. And I don't think you should put up with it until you get a good offer, non-negotiable or non-refundable deposit at a higher amount than what you currently have. But I'm opposed to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meisner. We have discussion and a motion by council. And with the board.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion from Board Member Trace and a second from Board Member Askew with the 10-day provision also, correct?
I was going to ask that, yes, to confirm.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Madam Clerk, you call the roll?
Vice Chair Trace,
Aye.
Member Matheny,
Aye.
Member Cooper,
No on this one.
Member Askew,
Aye.
Chairman Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
Madam Clerk?
Well, the next one got pulled.
Well, again, the next item is going to be pulled. I would update you really quickly. We are set to close on the Alliance property on the 30th, so a week from tomorrow. That's the Lot 8C, 9, and 10, which is the $2 million sale price. And we've been being bombarded by all kinds of closing papers and stuff from banks and mortgage companies and everything, so we know they're going to do it because someone's spending a lot of money on lawyers. And so my office is just every day there were probably 25 different sets of documents sent over today for this closing. So I think that's good news. Hopefully we'll get it done.
Good, so we don't need to read this into the record then?
No, but that's a different item, but I was just
All right.
updating on. The other item has been withdrawn because we worked out some of the wording on that already.
All right.
So we have nothing else. Thank you.
I have a
Board
question.
Member
Mr. Manzares, do you remember the approximate close date for the Rimrock parcel 6 and 8A?
There's a 90-day due diligence period, and then a 90-day governmental approval period, and then a 15-day closing.
Okay.
So that's 6.5 months. Is that
Okay.
right? Yeah.
And then this might be a question for, Veronica's not here, but Mr. Crosby of, how are things going on I think lot 4 and 5 are still available on corporate campus, and then lot 1 and 4 in retail?
Now, lot in the corporate campus?
Yeah.
I can answer. Lots 4 and 5 are still under contract with Madison Grove for that
They are.
project. Those are, actually, they're tracks 4 and 5, which is sort of how we distinction lots in the commercial part, tracks in the corporate campus. I spoke with Stacy Bannock from the Madison Grove folks today. They have a hearing in front of the Florida Housing Finance Committee.
Oh,
on
they
the
appealed?
30th. They appealed the scoring
Okay.
of it, so they have a hearing on April 30th. They're challenging the scoring of their project, and so he told me that he would call me on his way back from Tallahassee and let me know how it goes. So.
And can you email us that whenever you find out?
Oh, absolutely.
go
I
for it.
actually looked on the agenda on their website tonight to see if they had posted anything about it. I couldn't find anything yet. They said that they haven't posted their agenda for next week's meeting yet. So as soon as I find that, I'll check again on Monday. I'll check maybe tomorrow on Monday, and as soon as I get the agenda for that item, I'll send that around to you.
Okay,
guys, too.
perfect.
Thank you, Mr.
Um,
Rosero.
And then lot 1 and 4 on the retail side, I don't know if we've gotten any interest or, no? All right.
Nope.
And would it be good to put pricing out there? Because I don't know if we're listing it with pricing or not, and making people
You
call.
need to come to the
and-
microphone, please,
Yeah.
Mr. Crosby.
Yes, there is no new update on it. We are marketing it. Just going back to what we've been talking about, the issue on retail has just been the pandemic. Retailers scared to death. That's the bad news, the old news. The good news is it seems to be all turning around all over the state. We're seeing a lot more activity and inquiries on general retail. So especially with the activity going on right now at the retail center, I would expect us to have something shortly. I really would.
Yeah, that parking lot's full every time I'm there. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
okay. And then are we going to sell those together? Because it's kind of the end of that area, and then, is it possible to market it as kind of a bigger piece than the two of them separate?
That's really, we're showing it both ways.
Okay.
And we'd certainly prefer that one user take it all, but, right now, we're just trying to get money in the house however it comes.
Okay. And then I guess if what was that, Madison Grove gets denied on their appeal, we'll start marketing that again? I assume
And
they'll
there's
drop.
lots of demand out there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, prior to now, we'd had mostly workforce or affordable housing type developers looking at that site, but I think things have changed enough now. There could be market rate apartment developers. Also, we're starting to see more other senior housing developers and even office developers out there. So we could see some different uses if they fail.
It is professional office allowed on those lots 1 and 4 in the retail?
Well, I think
Campus?
if it was something medical,
Okay.
that was a use that's already out there, is what I was thinking.
Okay. All right. I had something else, but it slipped my head. Oh, we have that piece closing. Did we finished all of the roadway improvements in that retail area? That's all done?
It
We
looks
talking
good.
about that?
It
Okay.
looks good.
All right. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
What else? Seeing there's nothing else on our agenda, we will conclude this DSD meeting.